Okay, so I've never played Five Nights at Freddy's. I understand that it's a popular game with the younger crowd, of which I am sadly no longer a part, but that does mean I'm old enough to remember something even better. Chuck E. Cheese. Which apparently is a thing that still exists in some godforsaken corners of the world. I, up until about 5 minutes ago, had been under the impression that Chuck E. Cheese had gone the way of Blockbuster, to that great defunct business in the sky. We had a good run, Blockbuster. Thank you for everything. But no, I honestly thought that Chuck E. Cheese was just gone. It's like I turned 12 and it just completely vacated the premises of my mind. And now it's back, in a way, with the film adaptation of Five Nights at Freddy's, and I confess myself perplexed. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jake, the Scary Story Guy, and today we're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, the film adaptation of the very popular series of horror video games. Our guy Josh Hutcherson comes apparently out of nowhere to star in this. I mean, speaking of vacating the premises of my mind, once those Hunger Games movies wrapped up, this dude was just gone. Where did he go? And he plays a troubled man, can't hold down a job. He's just trying to provide for his little sister, who he is the legal guardian of. And he ends up getting offered a job to work the night shift as a security guard at a Freddy Fazbear's, which is this universe's version of Chuck E. Cheese. The business itself has been closed down for years, but they still hire a security guard to come in and just like, I don't know, make sure nobody steals the merch or the arcade games. I wasn't totally clear on that part of it. But yeah, that's basically the movie. I don't want to spoil anything here. I am well aware that there is a subsection of the internet, this very rabid fan base of this franchise that will absolutely tear me to shreds if I spoil anything. So fear not, I will simply figure out the most vague and non-spoilery way possible to just express my feeling that this is a pretty bewildering movie. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, oh, this is like David Lynch, I don't know what the hell's going on. It's more like, I don't know who this movie was made for. Because just to give you context, there were a ton of children in my theater, and I understand that kids get really excited about this game online, that there's this whole lore surrounding the game, the plot line. I know nothing about this lore, only that it exists, and it is very serious business. And so there were maybe half a dozen times during this movie that you could hear all the kids in the theater get really excited in unison, kind of nudging their parents, nudging their friends to point out like, oh, that's character X, that's a really classic line from the series, things like that. So clearly there are references there that will, you know, fire up some passion for the true believers here. But I've got to say, I'm not sure the kids were all that into the movie. Like, I don't know how they would be, actually. This was a shockingly slow burn. I mean, the first hour of this movie, the plot honestly advances like 2 inches. And the progress that is made, it's just examination of this dude's childhood trauma. Like, there's nothing spooky or fun or whatever going on. It's just like, there are prolonged conversations about a custody battle. So the thing I'm befuddled by is just that this movie is very clearly targeted towards like 10-year-olds. And maybe a fourth of the runtime is stuff that a 10-year-old would actually enjoy. And you know, I didn't go in expecting to love this. I hoped that maybe it would be kind of a horror comedy, holy shit hybrid like Megan was from earlier this year, but I knew this was not for me. I certainly saw the trailer for it about 1,000 times over the last 6 months, but that's neither here nor there. Again, I don't know who this is for. It reminded me actually a lot of a movie called Renfield that came out earlier this year, which was a film that I thought kind of similarly squandered some potential. Renfield has a solid premise, but it spends just an excruciatingly long time on this side plot that I could not write something less interesting if I tried. And it's just like, can we please get back to Nicolas Cage doing Dracula? That was fun. It's the same thing here. The concept of murderous animatronic characters in an abandoned Chuck E. Cheese knockoff, that's pretty good. But we just spend so much time on stuff that's not that. I mean, if you squashed all those scenes together, this would be no longer than a sitcom episode. I was really, really bored throughout the vast majority of this movie. And the parts that I wasn't bored during, I was just shaking my head in disbelief at how dumb all the characters are. Specifically the lady cop, which there's another similarity with Renfield. That movie also had a lady cop that was just abominably bad. But this might actually be the single worst police officer character I have ever seen committed to film. I mean, there's not even a moment, not a frame of this movie where you even approach believing that this girl is a cop. Like, I know there's a lot of discourse in this country about bad cops, holding them accountable. I have no idea why I'm talking about this in a review for what is essentially a children's movie, other than to say there is not a police department in the country that would not have fired this bitch 100 times over. And frankly, her utterly derelict policing conduct is nowhere near the most irritating thing about her. I swear to you, this movie would be an hour shorter if this character just answered questions when she was asked. Like, it's obvious she knows a lot more about what's going on than Hutcherson does, so he'll ask her questions like, what's going on? And she'll either just ignore him or she'll just start speaking in riddles. So this movie is just way too long in like all the places that it shouldn't be. But then it also just careens over these plot points that it's like, you actually should have spent more time fleshing that out. The way this is written, it's as though no one in the world actually exists except for the people who are directly connected to the plot. Like, there are things that happen which is, oh, everyone's in jail. If this is the real world, everyone is in jail because of what just happened. Which I get that, you know, 10-year-olds in the audience are probably not going to be asking a lot of those kinds of questions. But again, they're also probably not going to want to watch Peter whine about his childhood trauma for 2 hours. So I don't know, man. I didn't like it. It's not even that it's a kids movie, right? There's tons of kids movies that I like. It's that it's a bad movie. It's definitely gonna have some moments that satisfy hardcore members of this fandom in various ways, but honestly, my prediction is that it will ultimately end up disappointing even a lot of them. And my other prediction is that much like Chuck E. Cheese itself or Josh Hutcherson's face on our screens for the last 8 years, even the memory of this movie is going to be vacating the premises of my mind very, very quickly. I'm gonna give Five Nights at Freddy's 1.5 stars out of 5. Alright guys, that about does it. We are almost done with Spooky Month, but we're not done yet, so stay tuned for more reviews coming soon. And in the meantime, thank you for watching this video, and here's hoping you survive to see the next one.